So thank you for being here today. I hope that you're all having a really great time at the CMX conference. The premise of my talk is essentially why guess what your community needs from you and wants from you when you ask them. So I'm going to be sharing an easy research approach to kick off your next initiative as we went over. And what we're here to discuss today are one, why research is worth your time and what projects it works for. We'll cover that really quickly just to get on the same page. Two, easy research tactics you can complete in less than a week. And then throughout, I will also share recent real life examples for context to help you kind of place these tips and this advice. But first, really quickly, I just wanted to share a little bit about me so that you could feel confident that this advice has been tried and is true. Everything being relative, I worked in marketing and communications for almost a decade. I lead Jobber's community team. It's really unique in our space to have a community team. I work in SaaS, so software as a service, and we build software for small home service business owners. So picture all of those people that come to your properties to do work, plumbers, landscapers, HVAC, electrical. You never go to them, they always come to you. We build software for them to help them business. And in the top left there, they're all that we work with. So they have lots of other things going on in their lives. And I just thought this was such a sweet photo of someone using Jobber while also multitasking with their family. So our team is focused on community building through social media, influencers, public relations, events, and brand programs. So lots of different channels feeding into what we do. This 2021 has been a momentum building year for us, a lot of things coming to fruition. If anyone else works in tech, you can't necessarily share exact numbers, but we did our first virtual conference called Jobber Professional Development Day. It just wouldn't fit on the line, so I used the hashtag. And we had thousands of entrepreneurs sign up and thousands of entrepreneurs attend. So it was a big success for us. And this will be the case study that I kind of focus on in this presentation as an example. Our community team has grown Jobber's social media combined following to over 50,000. Again, everything being relative, this is a really big achievement for us because we're teaching all of these different industries, these business owners in, again, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, cleaning, lawn care, that they belong to a larger community of people. So we're kind of doing that education as we go, and that larger community is home service. And then finally, we this year launched our first grant program, the Boost by Jobber grant program. We're giving away 30 grants, totaling $150,000 later this month. And we've had such an amazing overwhelming response to this program. So a lot of really exciting things that we've used research to build that have launched this year or grown a lot this year. So just to get on the same page here, this is where I'm coming from when I say your projects benefit from research. On the left there, you have great ideas for community-focused projects or initiatives. You go out and get your community's input for validation and extra insight. And what comes out the other side is a stronger, more sticky, community-focused project or initiative. It's really that simple, but I feel like it can be intimidating if you haven't done it before or if you want to do more of it. So I'm going to share a few different projects that benefit from research, because that's the kind of thing you're probably thinking is, should I do research for this project? And one example is when you're doing something for the first time. So again, the Boost by Jobber grant program, we launched it at our Jobber PD Day event actually earlier this year. And basically, Rebecca on my team she had heard from a lot of small business owners that it was really hard to get funding as a small business owner. You're often taking out personal lines of credit, that type of thing. So she had a few calls with people. And one of the biggest things that she learned right off the bat is that we didn't need to give out 6 $25,000 grants in order to make an impact in our community. We could give people amounts as little as $1,500, $5,000, and we could potentially change the trajectory of their business. So we ended up giving away 30 grants ranging from $1,500 to $20,000. That was a huge thing that we learned just from a few phone calls. You might want to bring in research when it's time to check in or revisit a program. We had an amazing person on our team create what we call the Jobber Ambassador Program. This is when we partner with influencers long-term to have them use our software. She went on to an exciting new opportunity, and it was just a really good time for us to have some calls with people, send out a survey to the larger ambassador group and ask them, what are some things that we can make easier for you? And what are some things that we should not touch that you love the way they are and we can keep them the same? It could be you are coming up on a year of a new program, or it's springtime. It's the new year. You don't need to wait for some big reason to check in with people, but checking in with a program or a bunch of people is a great time to bring in research. When you're exploring a hot topic is another time that research can be beneficial. When and how to fire a customer is something that came up a lot with our customers. It's something that intimidates people. You don't want to give away, let go of money, even if a customer is difficult. So you maybe want to source input from your community members so that you can create a really strong piece of content that the rest of the community can benefit from. And then finally, when you're narrowing down many options. For Jobber Professional Development Day, similar to this conference, we only had 12 sessions and 2 keynotes, and we had 20, 30 ideas of different sessions we could run. Rather than kind of guess which ones that we should bring forward to our community, we asked them and they helped us narrow down the options. So before I get into the tactics, I just want to dispel a few myths that I certainly felt before I got really comfortable with research. The first one is that research has to be super formal and super scientific. Of course, there is a place for statistical significance and A/B tests and things like that. But the kind of research that I'm talking about with you today to benefit your projects is really just opening yourself up to genuine conversations and feedback. It's better, and I'm going to talk about this later, it's just better to talk to some people and hear their thoughts than talk to no one. So don't feel like you have to have some kind of super scientific, super structured plan. You can go with the flow with the kind of research that I'm talking about here. The next myth is that your community doesn't want to talk to you or only wants to talk about your product. This is just not true. If you think about the brands that you like, there are absolutely brands where you would be excited if they asked you to get on a call with them or potentially share your thoughts through a survey. And there are some brands that you interact with every day where you wouldn't do that, and that's okay. There are people in your community who would be just like you, very excited to have you reach out to them, and you just need to give them the opportunity to put their hand up. They are there, I promise you. The other thing is, if you provide different options for channels in terms of people giving feedback, more people will take part. The same way that people like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, for all different reasons, your community may be based on when they have time to take part or whether they like calls or not. You just need to give them some different options and they will give you their thoughts. And then the other thing, that final point there is, sometimes you're worried that, our community is just going to want to talk about features they wish we could add or things we could change about our product. That might come up, but I have done dozens of these calls. And if you are upfront about the topic, most people respect that and understand that you're there to talk about X, not the product. But of course, people might have questions, and then you can just tell them that you'll pass those on to the support team and have them reach out. So don't be afraid of that. And the final myth is that research takes a super long time. Some input is better than no input. I'm going to hammer this home a few times. 3 to 5 takes start to reveal trends. I have seen this happen several times. I've talked to other peers. You don't need to talk to a ton of people. And then at the end of the day, you just want to shape your research to the time you have. And again, some input is better than no input. So really quick context here on Jobber Professional Development Day. We did all of the research tactics that I'm about to get into, and I'll share examples. And there are 4 things that came out of those that we basically held on tight to as touchstones or knew that we had to run with. The first one is actionable advice. This might sound obvious that, of course, you want to provide content to people that's actionable. But what we learned was specifically, like I said, this is a bit of an emerging category, this idea of home service. And there hasn't been a ton of investment in home service. So what a lot of people had experienced was going to conferences where it was really more about a sales pitch at the end. It wasn't really about providing value. There was a bit of bait and switch there. Or they were told, as a small business owner, you have to get out of the business, start working on the business. And it was like they were getting barked at without actionable advice on how to do that. So we knew that we didn't want to lose people's trust in year 1 and they wouldn't come back in year 2. So this was really important to us to hang on to. The other thing was, I did not go into planning PD Day thinking that networking was going to be an important part of a virtual conference. I thought it would be more about the content. CMX does networking really well. So if you've been going to this conference for the last couple of days, you're probably like, what are you talking about? Of course, great online events have networking, but people said they wanted networking, and that was really good to know. The other thing is we thought, maybe small business owners, like the finance kind of business development courses or content or sessions are going to be the most important. No, what we found out from people is that they wanted to learn about leadership and building a strong management team. And then finally, this was very convenient. The community told us dozens of times, we want to hear from Gary Vee. And we knew that it would be really special if we could have Gary Vee talk specifically to home service. So it was kind of nice to not have to try and guess at which keynote we should bring in for the first year of our conference. So now that I've kind of set that stage, I'm going to very quickly go through research tactics that you can use to make your project stronger. So we're going to go over quick 20-minute calls, a short survey, very specific questions on social, and then I have a surprise PSA to keep you around until the end. So quick 20-minute phone calls. Here are the logistics. You're going to want to set up 3 to 6 questions with intentions. The intentions are the most important part, and I'll get to that. Set up a spreadsheet so that you and whoever else is potentially helping you with these calls is keeping all of that info in one place. Ask to record the calls. If anybody here has done a little bit of journalism, you know that your notes can fail you. So always nice to have a recording. And then here's something really important. Pause after 2 to 3 calls. After 2 to 3 calls, you're going to have a good idea of which questions are getting you the answers you're not actually looking for. Maybe they're confusing people, or maybe you're like, okay, I kind of get the answers to these 2 questions or whatever, really straightforward. I'm going to change these questions or dig deeper. So you want to pause and rejig your questions after 2 to 3 calls. And then just a reminder, you really only need to do 3 to 5 to start seeing like, okay, I feel like I have enough here to start making some educated decisions. You could continue. If you wanted more calls after that, do another batch of asks. But really in the beginning, just set up those 3 to 5 to get started. So this is what I mean about intentions, is that I think a lot of research, you're kind of like a little hung up on like, what questions am I going to ask? Really just start with the intention. So what we wanted to learn from people before we put together Jobber PD Day was we wanted to understand what they're currently open to spending time on in terms of professional development. That easy. So we just said, what do you currently do for professional development? We also wanted to figure out the barriers for spending billable hours on PD so we could overcome those objections. Any hour during the day that they're at our conference, they're not out there closing jobs or working on jobs that they can invoice for. So we literally just asked, are you open to live virtual PD conferences or courses during work hours? And we heard yes. So then we felt really comfortable placing this as a morning event. If we had heard no, we would have put it in the evening. And then another example is we wanted to find what turned them off about professional development so we can overcome this in our positioning. So we just said for past courses or conferences, what's been great, what's been disappointing. And I already kind of mentioned that they wanted actionable advice and they wanted networking. So that's how we found those things out through this question. And then if I'm going to tell you to do calls, then I should tell you how to get people into those calls. And these are the 4 ways that work for us. Personal emails is you either sending out emails from your personal account to people you've developed relationships with in your community, or it's pulling email lists of people that fit the parameters and sending maybe like 10 emails out at a time, but from your personal email. I would really recommend that versus kind of like a mass newsletter. Asking people to get on calls, I think people are more likely to say yes when they have, when they know that they can kind of see the person that they'd be talking to. If you have a Facebook group, a Discord server, a Reddit, ask in that group. Those people are already invested in your community. Give them that opportunity to put their hand up. I personally always usually get the calls I need from those first 2 bullet points. But after that, for sure, ask on social. Why wouldn't your community want to hear? You don't need to keep it a secret that you're trying to get their opinion on something that you're building for them. And then that last bullet point, one-on-one team asks, I just wanted to point out, same thing. Kind of with that first bullet point, if you're asking internally your team to hook you up with people to chat with on a call, don't send a group Slack message or a group email. You really ask one-on-one because people are really busy. So just don't be surprised if you send out a group chat request to people on your team if nobody gets back to you, because they'll always think it's someone else's responsibility. And in terms of the ask, I just really encourage you to be upfront and transparent. Put in the subject line, do you have time? X. Say, I'm writing to you today because we're working on X, and you don't have to give away the farm. We said we're working on figuring out what kind of professional development programs we could develop for our community. I have a comms background, like I mentioned, so I'm really into the bolding I assume people don't want to read a whole email. So the ask from you is a 20-minute phone call. And then I gave them a link to book into Calendly. And I also, our community, they're always on the road. So if they just wanted to tell me, hey, just call me Thursday morning, I'm open to that. I don't want them to self-select out because they don't feel like booking into my calendar. And then here is, I didn't actually send out an email for Jobber Professional Development Day. I actually put a note in our Facebook group. So again, I just said, I'm looking to chat with a few people about professional development, 20-minute phone call. Here's what we talk about. Also feel free to share your thoughts in a comment. I think we got 6 calls booked through this, and that was enough for us. So if you wanted to screenshot this, this just kind of recaps everything. And I really challenge you to try out 3 to 5 calls on your next big project. It's so worth it, and we do it every time now. So a short survey. Okay, quickly, survey rules, because survey is such a big word. Don't overthink it. Do it and you'll get better. Best case, you learn something, and you probably will. And literally worst case, you learn nothing, other than you probably need to spend a little bit more time working on how you pitch or create your survey. Just do it. So the first thing you want to do is just sit down and think, what are you trying to learn? If you did calls, are you asking the same questions as the calls? Are you kind of wanting to get into decision making? Do you want people's opinions on your insights? And then in terms of what to ask people, you can think about, okay, let me make it easy for people. Ask them to make choices, ask them to provide opinions, ask if they agree, disagree. I would try to keep it under 10 asks. The shorter, the better. I mean, you know that if something is short, you're more likely to finish it. And then get it in front of people. This is one where I think you don't have to be as personal. Put it in that Facebook group with those engaged people, share it on your social channels. And this is one where I think you can put this in a customer or lead newsletter to engage people. It's a great way to just engage with leads as well. At the end of the day, again, to keep it simple and not overthink it, is just ask people, ask yourself, what are 2 to 3 questions I would like to ask someone in a face-to-face conversation so I can understand my project better. Follow-up questions will reveal themselves if you do that exercise. And then quickly, I just wanted to show an example of how we wanted people to pick 3 topics on leadership that they were interested in. We asked people, what PD courses or events have you enjoyed in the past, so that we could kind of look into those and maybe try to shape our content and experience to that same experience. And then always classic, are we missing anything? Please suggest topics below that you think would be important for us to cover. So just a few examples of the kind of things you can ask people. So again, the survey rules, literally worst case scenario, you learn nothing, try out a survey. Okay, last tip here, very specific, fun questions on social. So on the left there is probably a question that I suggested for Instagram. How do you invest in professional development? That is a total snoozer. It sounds like a test question. On the right is a question that our awesome social media strategists put in our Facebook group. If you could sit down and have coffee with one famous entrepreneur, who would it be? I mean, which one would you answer? No surprise, the one on the right got us lots of fun answers, and that's one where we heard Gary Vee come up over and over. Okay. My PSA, thank you for staying till the end here, is to follow up and say thank you. If it's just an email thank you to all the people you made calls with, do it. If you can put in a $10 Starbucks gift card to say an extra thank you, do that too if you have the budget. The point is you want to acknowledge that someone spent time with you so that they're more likely to spend time with you later. If you did something more in like your Facebook group, just put a thank you in the Facebook group so that people know, hey, people actually took part in that ask. Maybe next time I'll take part as well, and other people feel appreciated for giving you their insights. So just to wrap up here, I just wanted to kind of touch on 4 FAQs that I know come up. One, what if your community isn't big enough? Again, I just want to remind you, you're only aiming to talk to 3 people. If your community is only 1 or 2 people, talk to those 1 or 2 people. They're going to obviously be really big partners with you in growing your community. What if no one answers the survey? Write a better post. Did you kind of do the snoozer thing that I did, and you could make it a little bit more fun? Write a better post. Rejig your survey, maybe make it a little shorter, share it in new places. Is spending time on calls really worth it? Yes, I really do think so. If you really only start with like 3 or 4 tight questions, it's really the follow-up questions where you get the gold, where you can dig in with people. And then the last FAQ here is, what if you're really confident in your idea? That's amazing. Don't do research if you don't have to. But I mean, if you have some close contacts in your community, send a couple of DMs to them on Instagram or Twitter or an email and confirm that you're good to go. Or if you think that they have more to say, take a call with just one of them. And that's it. I am done. And you can see if you want to talk community with me, I'm on Twitter at Moly M.
That was so cool, right on time, and it just flowed like water. And this is not the only Bruce Lee sort of connotation that we're going to have here, because we've got a question that is sort of similar in that context. So Molly, thank you. That was really really lightning and enlightening. And David's comments are really all. Can't wait to send the recording to everyone who asks me, how do we build
Awesome.
community? Always starts with talking to your members. So let's jump into the question. So Chris B saying, speaking of Bruce Lee, how do you sell your jiu-jitsu approach to statistics to executive stat nerds
Oh,
in marketing?
sure. I don't ask for permission. I just I feel like you're I guess stat nerds. I think that you just have to believe that you want to get some qualitative insight, and if you're getting a lot of pushback, maybe just say like, can we start there and maybe see if we need to do some more like statistical type research after. I think if people are unfamiliar with this more like just input conversational starting point, this more qualitative starting point, maybe they just need to see some examples, and maybe you'll be better off selling them that maybe like you're done and you can move forward after you've had some of that input.
Fantastic. So maybe one more time for another question. So Mr. Spinks, there we go. His book, fill the survey, get it. So yeah, shameless plug-in. So how do you balance doing what members say that what they want with what you believe they actually want?
Wow, David, what the heck? What they want with what I believe they actually want. I mean, that is such a good question. I feel like if I was really torn, then I'd have to talk to more people. And I would ask questions like, I have done this. Everyone's saying they really want this. What do you think, person in the community that I really trust? And sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, someone with a lot of experience in your community, like in our case, a really experienced home service business owner, says that is the kind of question that you get from people who are new to running businesses. They say they want that, but I can tell you from experience that if you offer them this, they'll be better off and they'll be happy that you kind of did that for them. So I think that, again, I would probably go to different members of my community to validate that, but I also think that you're allowed to take swings and risks, and that's allowed too. So why don't you, if you believe in it and you have some reason to do so, try it. As long as it's not like your entire marketing plan's not hinging on it. Sometimes, you just gotta give things to people before they ask for them.
Fantastic. So just one last question, see if we can actually squeeze that in. What tools do you use to track your statistics?
Of course we can get better with this. A lot of the stuff that we do is qualitative. Like in terms of tracking statistics, we have like a whole business analytics team that helps us with this. But in terms of the qualitative side of things, I feel like we can get better at summarizing briefs, summarizing our data, and making it accessible for people through spreadsheets and wikis and things like that for them to access for future projects.
Cool, fantastic, and we are right on time. So Molly, that's been amazing.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure hosting you here, and of course everyone who's been engaging, they've been absolutely brilliant stars, as we say in the UK. I said Istanbul, now the UK. People are confused. Anyway, Molly, thank you. Everyone, thank you for all the questions. So unfortunately, we're right at the end of our session over here. So there's loads and loads of things to do. So if you really, really like what Molly said on the presentation, share it with CMX Summit Rise. That is the official hashtag. So there are many, many things that you can check around on this beautiful Bevy interface. So thanks, everyone. So I shall be flying to the next session on Club Stage, and there are many more around in this beautiful event. So Molly, thank you. Everyone, thank you, and over and out.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.